Hi everyone, welcome to this another lecture in the Indian polity series, the NCERT based series that we are covering. So far we have covered two chapters, freedom chapter, and we have covered the chapter on equality. Today is a very interesting class that's going to take place because today we are going to talk about social justice. Social justice in NCERT has been explained in such an easy manner, so wonderfully, that it will take you, only 10 to 15 minutes to understand the essence of this chapter. Okay, let's get started. Now, as we all know, social justice is the main significant part of politics. So when you study Indian polity and for your UPSC CSE examination, in the mains GS paper 2 and GS paper 1, the social justice topic is of utmost importance. And this topic is really important from the mains perspective. ये topic आपका mains के perspective से important and not very important from prelims perspective, but only from the perspective of mains, because the first two chapters that we covered that were on freedom and equality, they are from the perspective of prelims. You have to prepare them from the perspective of prelims, from the perspective of essay, right, an ethics paper. But social justice is completely mains oriented. Paper 2, paper 1, even the essay paper, and even if you go for paper 4, that is the ethics paper, तो इस perspective से भी ये paper, ये topic बहुत important है. Okay, so let's get started without any delay. So what are we going to study in this chapter? We are going to study what exactly is justice, because when mains oriented questions they are coming on justice, you need to be very well aware about the definition. जब mains में question में आता है ना justice के बारे में, तो सबसे पहले इसकी definition आपको पता होनी चाहिए. Only then you can start the foundation of your answer. Then second, we are going to study what does it mean by treating equals equally. इक्वल लोगों को इक्वली समान तरीके से ट्रीट करने का मतलब क्या होता है? So this is a very typical statement, but we'll understand its meaning as well. Then we'll study proportionate justice. We'll study about special needs, just distribution, John Rawls' theory of justice, free markets versus state intervention, and then we are going to come on to the homework. Today's homework will be very light because ये mains oriented topic है, तो एक या दो question ही इसमें से बन सकते हैं easily. So we are going to keep it very light. Okay. So here when we talk about treating equals equally and proportionate justice, these are the two principles of justice. Justice के ना ये principles कहलाए जाते हैं, or the pillars on which justice stands. Okay. We'll study that also, don't worry. So let's start with a story, with a little story. So what happened? We know that in ancient Indian society, Chanakya and many other leaders, Raja Chola, the Chola Empire kings, etc., many other leaders, and also during the Ram Rajya, Lord Rama, they used to focus mainly on dharma. Right? They always used to talk about dharma. Even Shri Krishna in Mahabharata, he used to talk about dharma, that you should follow your dharma. You should keep all the other emotions aside, right? And you should be focused on your own dharma. So what was dharma? Dharma basically was justice, doing what is right for the society, doing what is correct for your citizens. That is dharma. And dharma helps you to maintain social order in your society, in your kingdom. And dharma used to be the primary duty of the kings back in ancient Indian society. Ancient Indian society में धर्म जो होता था वो राजाओं की primary सबसे पहली duty हुआ करती थी. And they used to live by their dharma only. All their emotions, all their other trivial issues, they used to be kept aside, right? But only dharma used to reign in their heads. And even one time in China, what happened? There was a very important philosopher, very deep philosopher, just like Chanakya. He was Confucius. And he was of this opinion that kings should maintain justice by punishing wrongdoers and rewarding the virtuous. Only then justice will be, will progress in a society. If you are punishing the wrongdoers, in the future they will, before committing any crime, they will think twice. If you are rewarding the virtuous, so what the good people, the justice oriented people, the dharma oriented people will work more, rigorously for the betterment of the society if they are being rewarded. So Confucius used to say there should be a punishment and a reward system for the bad people and the good people. And once in Greece, there was a very important philosopher, right, called Plato. Now Plato wrote in his book a little story, and that story was a conversation between Socrates and his disciples. So now the disciples of Socrates, they asked him, why should we be concerned with justice? जो सोक्राटिस के जो शिष्य थे, उन्होंने पूछा उनसे कि भाई हमें जस्टिस के बारे में इतना क्यों सोचना चाहिए, right? It is not our duty to maintain justice or whatever it is, right? Why should we be concerned with justice? So Socrates, he answered it very wonderfully, and that was recorded by Plato in his book. Okay. So the disciples of Socrates, they gave their side of justification. They said that people who were unjust seem to be much better off than those who were just. This is the same question that comes to our minds also, right? जो बुरा करते हैं, जो करप्ट है, वो तो खूब पैसे वाले हो रहे हैं, और जो बेचारे ऑनेस्ट लोग हैं वो गरीबी में रहते हैं. ऐसा क्यों? The people who are most corrupt, right, they are enjoying their lives, they are having lavish lives, and the people who are honest, right, they are living below their means. Why is it so? So why should we be concerned about justice? हम क्यों सोचे justice के बारे में जब हमारा कुछ भला नहीं हो रहा? This was the question of the disciples of Socrates. So Socrates, he said that justice does not mean only doing good to our friends and harming our enemies, or following our own interest and passion. Justice means well-being of all people. And if everyone manipulated the rules to suit their own interest, to benefit their own selves, then no one could be sure of benefiting from injustice. राइट देखो, इनजस्टिस होता है जब समाज में, राइट, तभी आपको आपके अधिकारों के बारे में पता चलता है. whenever there is injustice in a society, only then you get realization what are your own rights, what are your own duties, right? Okay, and then you demand it from the king, and the king provides it to you, or you demand it from the government provides it to you. So when you see injustice, only then you become self-aware of your rights, of your existence in the society, and only then you can really get what you deserve. It is our own long-term interest to obey the laws and to be just. If we are also following injustice, somebody sometime at some place will do injustice to us also, right? Then how will we counter it? जब हम भी खुद कुछ गलत करने लगेंगे तो आगे जाके कोई और हमारे साथ कुछ गलत कर देगा, तो उसको कैसे काउंटर करेंगे? जब हम सही रास्ता फॉलो करेंगे तो आगे जब कभी हम मुसीबत में हो तो हमें भी उसी सही रास्ते से मदद मिलेगी. So that was the explanation, very wonderful explanation about Socrates. And he said justice does not mean just doing good to your friends and families and not thinking about others. Justice means being good to everyone. Well, we should think about the well-being of everyone. So if you are a shopkeeper and if you are selling products which have lost their expiry dates, that is wrong, right? Well-being of all people means when you are true to your customers also, not just your family members, when you are honest and true to whoever who comes into your shop, that is justice. Okay. And there was a very famous German philosopher also called Immanuel Kant, and he used to say that human beings, they have dignity right from the time that they are born, right? And if all persons are given this dignity, then what is due to each of them is that they have the opportunity to develop their talents and pursue their chosen goals. So when you give the person the dignity that he deserves right from the time he was born, then that person can progress in his own life. That person can develop his own hidden talents. But when the person is devoid of dignity, he spends all his life questioning himself, and that is why he enters into doing something which is not correct, which is not good, which is unjust. जब किसी इंसान की डिग्निटी आप उससे छीन लेते हो तो वो इंसान अपने आप को जिंदगी भर क्वेश्चन करता रह जाता है, और इस क्वेश्चनिंग में ही वो कभी कभी कुछ ऐसी चीजें कर बैठता है जो सोसाइटी के लिए सही नहीं है. सो जस्टिस रिक्वायर्स दैट वी गिव ड्यू एंड इक्वल कंसिडरेशन टू ऑल इंडिविजुअल्स. एंड व्हाट इज ड्यू टू ऑल द इंडिविजुअल्स? गिविंग हिम हिज और हर डिग्निटी. That is due to the individual. आज के समाज में कभी कभी, मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम, कभी कभी भी नहीं, मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम जो इंसान डिजर्व करता है वो है डिग्निटी, रिस्पेक्ट, वो हम देना भूल जाते हैं. And how can I prove that? Because I've seen myself how the car owners, if the servant, he misses any one spot while cleaning the car, he gets taunted and he gets demeaned by his own owner. एक कार साफ करने वाला अगर कोई स्पॉट मिस कर देता है गाड़ी पे तो उसका ओनर उसको 4 बातें सुनाकर चला जाता है. So that means giving dignity is still missing in our society in some aspects, right? So that is the first thing that you need to give. Irrespective of the position or status or job of the person, please give him his right that he deserves from his birth. Dignity. उसको कम से कम वो तो दो जो वो अपने जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार के तौर पे लेकर आया है, इज्जत, dignity. So now we are going to come towards the first principle of justice. First principle of justice is equal treatment for all equals. How can you give a person his dignity? by following the first principle of justice, that is equal treatment for equals. All individuals have certain kind of traits, certain kind of talents, characteristics as human beings which are personal and unique to them. So therefore they deserve equal rights and equal treatment, right? हर इंसान के अंदर एक पर्टिकुलर टैलेंट है, अपना स्किल है जो यूनिक है, जो आप में नहीं हो सकता. वट एवर टैलेंट आई हैव, यू माइट नॉट बी पोसेसिंग दोज टैलेंट्स, बट वट एवर टैलेंट्स यू माइट बी हैविंग, आई माइट नॉट बी पोसेसिंग दोज टैलेंट्स. आपके अंदर जिस तरीके की क्षमता है, मेरे अंदर वो क्षमता नहीं होगी, और मेरे अंदर जो यूनिक क्वालिटीज है वो आपके अंदर नहीं होगी. दैट मेक्स अस डिफरेंट, राइट? So that is why that means everybody deserves request equal rights and equal treatment. हर एक के साथ सही ट्रीटमेंट, रिस्पेक्टेड ट्रीटमेंट करना चाहिए, क्योंकि जो दूसरे के अंदर खूबी है वो हमारे अंदर नहीं है, राइट? So for example, a pizza delivery boy is coming to you. If a pizza delivery boy is coming from let's say New York, and the other pizza delivery boy is coming from let's say Chennai, that does not mean that you are going to disrespect the one coming from New York or or Chennai. That means both of them will be treated equally, given same respect, right? भले ही दोनों के states अलग हैं, irrespective of the place that they are coming from, or irrespective of the language that they are speaking, right? They are working at the same position, and so they require same respect, same treatment. ठीक है? जस्ट बिकॉज एक फिरंगी है तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं आप उसको डिसरिस्पेक्ट करने लगोगे, उसका मजाक उड़ाने लगोगे, नहीं. वो भी आपकी वही हेल्प कर रहा है जो कि इंडिया का पिज्जा डिलीवरी बॉय आपकी करता. Okay, so some of the important rights which are granted in the most liberal and mature democracies today are the civil rights. Mature democracy का निशान क्या होता है कि वहां पर सभी इंसानों को, सभी सिटीजन्स को, नागरिकों को सिविल राइट्स मिल रही हैं. एंड सिविल राइट्स इंक्लूड पॉलिटिकल राइट्स ऑल्सो. व्हेन यू गो टू वोट, व्हेन यू गेट इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी टू गेट अ जॉब, फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर यूपीएससी, right? Everybody is getting the equal opportunity. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि there is some income gap between people who can apply or who cannot apply. ऐसा तो नहीं है. Everybody can apply who is graduated, right? Then rights of life, liberty, right to property, all of these are the are the part of civil rights. And if these rights are being given to a person in a country, that means that country is liberal, right? That country is just. So this principle of giving equal respect and equal treatment to people, this principle would require that people should not be discriminated against caste, class, race, gender, nation, nationality, color, etc. इस प्रिंसिपल का मतलब क्या है कि आप किसी को डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं कर सकते किसी के साथ just on the basis of gender or caste or nationality. And everyone should be judged on the basis of their work and actions, not on the basis of the group that they belong to. If somebody is South Indian, you cannot discriminate, no, right? You have to judge everyone, you have to take everyone on the basis of their work and actions. आप काम देखो, अगर काम में खराबी है तो डांट लगाओ, या काम में खराबी है तो कंप्लेन करो. बट जस्ट बिकॉज वो इंसान साउथ इंडिया का है, या वो तमिल बोलता है, या वो हिंदी बोलता है, वो नॉर्थ इंडिया का है, इस वजह से आप किसी को डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं कर सकते. So I gave you the example of the pizza delivery boys also, belonging from different states but doing the same work, so they should receive the same kind of reward, same kind of remuneration. Okay, just because a person is coming from Bihar and another person is coming from Mumbai to do the same job does not mean that you are going to discriminate on the basis of states. You will give them the same pay, same reward. Now that brings us to the next important principle of justice, and that is proportionate justice. So what exactly is proportionate justice? So let's take an example, okay? Let's suppose that you are back in your school. Okay, let's go back to our schools. So in the school, one day it is announced that now all the students giving the exam will get the same marks, same score. Whether you have written anything or not on the answer sheet, whether you have studied or not studied, you will get the same score. So you will think that it is, not fair, it is unjust. It would be more fair if students are rewarded or awarded marks according to the quality of their answers, according to the efforts that they are putting in for preparing that exam, right? आपके दिमाग में यही सोच आएगा ना, ये क्या बात हुई कि सबको सेम स्कोर मिलेगा. बल्कि ऐसा होना चाहिए कि जो जैसे पढ़ा है, जिसने जितने एफर्ट्स डाले हैं, जिसके जैसे आंसर्स हैं, उस बेसिस पे मार्क्स मिलने चाहिए. So everybody, you will think that everybody should start from the same baseline of equal rights, right? So in this case, justice का meaning क्या होगा? In this case, what will be the definition of justice? Justice would mean rewarding people in proportion to the scale and equality of their effort. किस तरीके से उन्होंने एफर्ट डाले हैं, किस समान भाव में एफर्ट डाले गए हैं, उस बेसिस पे उनको रिवॉर्ड दिया जाए. In the proportion of their effort, in the proportion of their hard work that they have done, they should be rewarded. That is the meaning of justice. So it would be very fair and just to reward different kinds of work differently if we take into account different factors like skills which are required to do that job, or hard work that has been done by the student or by the person in that job, and possible dangers which are included in the nature of that job. On the basis of that, we should reward differently, right? Yahan par in the principle of equal treatment for equals, we said that we should not discriminate, right, on the basis of class, caste, race or gender. We should reward the people based on their works and actions. But the second proportionate justice is saying even when we are rewarding on the basis of work and actions, we should take into account the effort that has been put in by the person, the skills that the person brings, and the dangers that were involved in the job, and still the person performed the job. So in the proportion of that, we should give the reward. Okay. But in a society currently, the more dangerous the job is, the less the pay is. For example, a pay of a policeman or a watchman or a manual scavenger is very low as in comparison with the pay of a person who is sitting in the enclosed walls in a air conditioned room and performing his job. So for justice in society, the principle of equal treatment needs to be balanced with the principle of proportionality. That means this principle should be balanced with the second principle, and only then the rewards should be given. And that will be the characteristic of a just society, a fair society. Okay. Now the third principle of justice is recognizing the special needs. Now we all know that there are people who are disabled also in our country, right? So when this is a part of social justice. Okay, so when we take into account the needs of special needs of people in the society and then distribute rewards or duties, that becomes social justice. What is social justice? Social justice means when in the society we are also taking care about the needs of the special people, and then only we are distributing rewards or duties. The principle of taking account of the special needs of people does not necessarily contradict the principle of equal treatment. The first principle, it is not contradicting that, but the principle of treating equals equally could imply that people who are not equal in certain important aspects could be treated differently also, right? First principle agar hum dekhen ki people should be treated equally, here we can take into account the principle of social justice, and we could treat those people who are disabled or who have special needs differently, right? And we know that physical disabilities, age or lack of access to good education or healthcare, they are the factors which are considered when it comes to social justice. Okay, social justice आपको समझ आ गया. And when it comes to social justice, constitution allows the reservation of government jobs, quotas for admission to educational institutions for people who belong to SCs or ST tribes, right? Now, अगर एक country में, if people in a country enjoy very different standard of living, very posh standard of living, very luxurious standard of living, and they have all the opportunities, if they are also treated equally in all respects with those who are deprived of those opportunities, then that would not result into an unequal society. So that we cannot let it happen. So here the constitution helps us by establishing so many acts and so many policies which helps the socially deprived people also to get the same level of opportunities. So it becomes the function of the government here. When it comes to social justice, government's role comes into account. Okay, social justice में government का role आ जाता है. It becomes a function of the government to harmonize different principles, the first principle, second and third principle, to harmonize and create a balance between them to promote a just and fair society. Now, when we talk about a just society, another important characteristic of a just society is just distribution. That is fair distribution of goods and services, whether between nations or individuals or groups. People are treated equally, we know, in terms of laws and policies of the society. And that is why in a just and fair society, they enjoy basic equality of life and conditions and opportunities. For example, Article 17, it talks about abolition of untouchability. If untouchability is abolished, in that case, everybody will get equal opportunities to develop their talents, to develop their skills, and in jobs also. And similarly, if the government is bringing up so many recent land reforms in India, so that land can be equally distributed among the people, right? So these are some of the examples when it comes to just and fair distribution of goods and services in the society. Coming on to the next very important point in this chapter, that is the John Rawls theory of justice. Now, John Rawls was a very famous philosopher and political thinker. He wrote a very famous book in 1971 called The Theory of Justice. And in this book, he highlighted the principle of thinking under veil of ignorance. Ignorance means when you have no idea what is happening around you, when you are unaware, that is ignorance. So he came up with a very important assumption. He said, close your eyes, okay, for once, and do not associate yourself with any group, any religion, any family, any name, any surname. Just think you are just a human being, right? You do not know from which family you come from. You do not know if you are rich or poor. Forget about everything. Be ignorant. Okay. Forget about everything. And then, close your eyes and create a society, or create rules, or create, principles of a society in which everybody would be given same opportunities, equal treatment, etc. Right? In that case, you will be the rules or regulations that you will frame, they will be unbiased, they will be not partial. Okay. Only when you know from where you are coming, you will make rules to support your own group, support your own community, right? So when you are ignorant, when you do not know from where you come from, or to which group you belong to, you will make rules that will be unbiased and they will not be partial. So Rawls has argued that there could indeed be a rational justification for acknowledging the need to provide help to the least privileged members of society, and that is the veil of ignorance. He said that well-ordered society needed a concept of justice as a basic requirement. That means justice is a basic requirement in a just and fair society. Such a concept could be developed by only rational individuals who do not associate themselves from groups, communities, race, gender, caste, etc. The individuals who are very rational, very logical, and very fair-minded, using the veil of ignorance theory about their own position. They do not know what position they are standing on. So that is why their rules and regulations will be fair. They will be just, unbiased. And he used justice as fairness. He used that justice must be fair to all. He used to say that कि justice जो है वो सबके लिए एक समान होनी चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं कि अमीरों के लिए ही justice है, गरीबों के लिए नहीं. Justice should not be partial towards rich and poor. Justice should be fair. It should be fair to all, and justice should be the basis of a just society. It is also an aspect of ethics. So it will come in ethics paper also. Now John Rawls, he used to talk about two fundamental principles of justice. First principle is just society. Second principle is, right, morally acceptable society. राइट नाउ इन्होंने बोला ये जो दो फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल्स हैं जस्टिस के, ये एक जस्ट सोसाइटी को प्रमोट करेंगे और एक मॉरली एक्सेप्टेबल सोसाइटी को प्रमोट करेंगे. एंड व्हाट आर दीज प्रिंसिपल्स? फर्स्ट इज टू हैव एन इक्वल राइट टू द मोस्ट extensive total system of equal basic liberties. That means whatever civil liberties a government is providing to its citizens, it should be equally provided to everyone, irrespective of the income you earn, irrespective of the family you are coming from, or your skin color or race, gender, etc. Each person should actually, deserve all the civil liberties that are given by the government. It should be compatible with the same system of liberty for all. That means if a rich person is getting certain liberties, it should be extended to the poor person also. Right? ऐसा नहीं है poor person की freedom अलग है और rich person की अलग है. No. Right? Second principle, fundamental principle of justice that he talked about was social and economic inequalities are to be arranged so that they are both the greatest benefit of the least advantaged, and they are attached to offices and positions open to all under conditions of fair equality of opportunity. That means whatever inequalities or differences are there in society and economic, they should be also arranged in such a way that even the least advantaged or vulnerable group in the society gets benefited. ओके अगर इनइक्वालिटीज असमानताएं भी हैं सोसाइटी में, फॉर एग्जांपल अ पर्सन लेट्स से in private school, let's take an example of a private school. Okay, even in private school few years back, only the rich and the those who could afford the education could enter into the private school, right? But now 25% का reservation has been created, RTI, right to education act के अंदर. So even those who cannot afford naturally going to the private school, they can use that quota and enter into the private school. So this inequality also is helping the least advantaged, right? ये जो inequality है कि private school में सिर्फ अमीर जा सकते हैं या afford करने वाले बच्चे ही जा सकते हैं, अब वो inequality भी because by adding right to education and the quota of 25%, now that inequality is also favoring the least advantaged people. Even those who cannot afford to go to the private school can, use the quota and enter the private school. Even in my school, there were so many people, so many students who used that quota, right? So even these inequalities are, these economic and social inequality is also helping the least advantaged, because government is stepping in, government step in kar rahi hai. And second, attached to offices and positions open to all. Again, quota is, and reservation is also there in the job opportunities, right? So is case maybe even if there are inequalities in the society, economic, on the economic front also, still by the government intervention, these inequalities are benefiting those who are from the marginalized groups or vulnerable groups. So John Rawls used to say, if you are to choose where to live, then a privileged society is the answer. Okay, yani ki for that means that if you are going to choose where I need to live, then there will be a privileged society that will be created, because you will think about your own interest only. So we have to use the principle of veil of ignorance to determine where we should live, in what kind of society we should live. Only then the privileged society will end. Okay, so the first principle, the first fundamental principle of justice according to Rawls was to ensure civil liberties to all, and second was to similar to positive discrimination. Whatever inequalities are present in the society, that should be converted into something which is positive. That would lead to helping the marginalized groups and vulnerable groups. Okay, so he introduced a theoretical veil of ignorance principle, which ensures that all the players in the social game, all the citizens, should be placed in a particular situation, and then he calls it the original position, where everyone has a general knowledge about the facts of life and society, and each player or each citizen has to make a rationally prudential choice, right, related to the kind of social institution that they would like to live in. Alright, so forget about your race, gender, caste, name, family, etc., family background, etc., and then decide what kind of society you want to live in. And that way, you will create a just and fair society. So let's take a look at the homework for today. आज का एक homework का देख लेते हैं क्या होगा आपका homework. First question is discuss John Rawls' theory of justice. Very easy to answer. This is the first part of the question. Second part of the question is asking you to explain his concept of justice as fairness. Right, that means justice to be fair to all, right? Justice should be fair to all. So here you can explain his principles. ठीक है, यहाँ पर आप क्या कर सकते हो, ये justice as fairness इसने explain किया था, यहाँ you can explain the two fundamental principles of justice. Okay, and here because the question is of 12.5 marks, at least try to give 2 or 3 examples. ठीक है, not 2, 3, so 1 or 2 examples you should give. 1 से 2 examples यहाँ पर आप जरूर देना. ठीक है, each example for explaining the fundamentals of justice. Second question is what is justice? Explain its principle. This was the first topic that we studied. Justice और इसके 3 principles है. There were 3 principles of justice. 10 marks का question है. So you can easily explain justice and explain the principles of justice. And you can use the quotations by these famous philosophers and thinkers also. इनके quotations भी आप यहाँ पर use कर सकते हो आपके answer में. All right. So this was your chapter for today. ये था आपका chapter on social justice. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. If you really enjoyed it, do let me know in the comment section as well.